privilege to recognize Ms. Meng now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. First, I wanted to continue to urge you and the President to do everything in your power to bring home the 58 hostages who Hamas still holds in captivity. That includes 4 American citizens, Itai Khan, Gadi Hagai, Judith Weinstein Hagai, and Omer Nutra. And I want to urge you to continue efforts to please get humanitarian aid into Gaza and make sure it's getting to Palestinian civilians and not Hamas. Mr. Secretary, I too am extremely concerned that your actions will prevent the State Department from fulfilling requirements under federal law to comply with congressional directives and fund programs that Congress agrees, bipartisan agreement, are a priority. One example is basic education, authorized by the Reinforcing Education Accountability and Development, or READ Act. This is a bill that you personally introduced in 2017, and I was proud to co-lead its reauthorization last year in the House.
At its core, this issue is not just about budgets or administrative choices. It is about millions of children and young adults across the globe who will now be deprived of opportunities that could have shaped their futures. These programs were not experimental or symbolic. They were part of the Reinforcing Education Accountability and Development Act, commonly called the READ Act, which had been passed by Congress with bipartisan support. The intent behind this law was clear: to provide access to basic education, vocational training, and workforce development programs for those in vulnerable regions. By cutting them off, the Secretary's decision effectively stripped away learning opportunities from an estimated 44 million learners worldwide. This number is not just a statistic. It represents children who may now never set foot inside a classroom, teenagers who may never learn a trade, and entire communities that lose the stability education helps to build.
What is your plan to fulfill the congressional directives of the READ Act and ensure millions of children around the world can stay in school?
Well, number one, we always looked at, I would characterize that as development assistance, because that's what it is. You're trying to build the development capabilities of a country. And I think those would have to be driven, we would be open to doing programs that work, but they would have to be driven because an embassy or a regional bureau thinks these kinds of programs will work in this particular setting, as opposed to this global view on it. But just because something's called something nice doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's delivering on. There are many of these programs where, frankly, if you talk to the partner nation, they would say, I'll give you an example. I was recently in one of the Caribbean nations, and they're very grateful for help with schools, but their number one need is security. They have to build up their police departments and their security assistance. So they would tell you, before we can focus on our educational systems, we want to build capacity in our law enforcement so we can provide security so that then our society can flourish and that could be possible. That doesn't mean education is not important. It just means that the nation has identified that as a more important need, and we want to have the flexibility to be able to prioritize what could be most helpful.
And so I wanted to follow up also in the same vein with international family planning and reproductive health programs. You have also canceled all of these programs. These programs are life-saving. In 2024 alone, they were estimated to save the lives of 34,000 women and girls, prevent over 5 million unsafe abortions, and serve over 47 million women and couples around the world with modern contraceptive care. You are statutorily required to spend $575 million in bilateral international family planning awards, as Congress provided in 2024. What is the plan?
The representative who questioned him made it clear that these programs were not optional. Congress had appropriated $575 million specifically for bilateral international family planning awards. That money was allocated by law, and the Secretary was required to spend it for that purpose. Yet in his testimony, he admitted bluntly that there was no plan to do so. His words were unequivocal: "We're not going to be in that business globally." To Congress, this was shocking because it suggested that the administration was choosing to ignore statutory law and override bipartisan directives. In her frustration, the representative pressed him further, pointing out that ignoring such programs was not only unlawful, but also catastrophic for global health outcomes.
There's no plan. As I said, on those programs, with regards to that, there's no plan to spend that money. We're not going to be in that business globally. I mean, we're not going to do it.
So it doesn't matter that Congress passed the law?
Well, the money, that's not, the money that's been appropriated is for that purpose, but the way it's been spent, those programs, the way that money was being spent and the specific uses, we're not going to continue to do it in that same way.
What is the plan then? I know you talked about reorganization.
Again,
but this
all
is-
those funds that will be brought under one of the two buckets, it could, humanitarian assistance, it could be development assistance, it could be refugee and migration assistance. We will work with Congress to find a way to channel those funds in a way that comply with the statute, but at the same time are not funding activities that the administration feels is outside even the purview of the statute.
I
The
just
heart of the conflict lies in the balance of power. Congress holds the constitutional authority to appropriate funds and determine how they must be spent. When it passes laws such as the READ Act or mandates specific allocations for family planning, it is exercising that authority on behalf of the American people. The executive branch, led by the Secretary in this instance, is constitutionally required to execute those laws faithfully. Yet during the hearing, the Secretary openly stated that the administration would not continue funding certain programs despite their legal mandate. To many lawmakers, this was an alarming signal that the administration was claiming the power to overrule Congress, setting a precedent that could erode the very foundations of checks and balances in government. The representatives' frustration was sharpened by the fact that these were not abstract policy goals. They were carefully debated, voted on, and signed into law with bipartisan support. Education programs designed to reach 44 million learners and reproductive health initiatives meant to save tens of thousands of women were wiped away not because Congress revoked them, but because the administration chose to dismiss them. This highlighted the conflict not only as a legal problem, but also as a moral one. If laws meant to protect lives and build stability can be ignored at will, then the reliability of America's commitments, both to its citizens and to the global community.
I just want to say that that is statute, that is law, and contrary to your testimony, you are touching and changing it. And you said you wanted to work together with Congress. On April 24th, almost 90 members sent you a letter about these programs requesting a response. We still have not received a response. I respect that you say you want to work with us, but we need more than words, we need actions.
You'll get a response. What day was that letter?
April 24th. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you.